Good evening. I call to order the August meeting of the Florence City Planning Commission. And as we always do, we want to thank everyone that's here tonight. We are here for the people's business, and we are certainly glad to see participation in that. I'm going to ask Mr. Keith or Mr. Moses to give out invocation.
You want to welcome our new member for that?
Say it again.
Welcome our new member.
I do that after the invocation. That comes first.
Dear Lord, people, let us pray. Dear Lord, we want to thank you for one more gathering here today. You brought us through just about another day, but how blessed we are just to be amongst one another. Lord, we're here to do the business of the city of Florence and the people of Florence. These are the blessed asks in your name. Amen.
Amen. As Mr. Moses mentioned, we are very excited to introduce our newest commissioner tonight, Miss Xavier Sams. She was nominated in our last city council meeting, and we're glad to have her. We had 2 commissioners that rolled off the commission, and we have 1 more to go. But Ms. Sams, welcome, and we appreciate you being here. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so of course my name is Xavier, and I am a proud resident. I was born and raised here in Florence. I graduated from Wilson High School. I graduated from Francis Marion University as well, and I also have my master's in counseling. Currently, I am a realtor here in the area.
And a good one.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is approval of last month's minutes. The commissioners have received their packets, had a chance to review those minutes. If there are no changes, corrections.
Make a motion we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Moses.
Second.
And Mr. Keith. I have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it's unanimous. Thank you. All right. PC 2023-15. This is a request to rezone a parcel located at 619 South Church Street. Now, Mr. Moses, is this one you have to recuse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one.
All right. Staff report, please, and good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
All right, so this was continued from the June 13th meeting. We did have a recusal, and we were unable to meet quorum to decide on this matter, to take it to vote. The commissioners also asked for an official survey from the applicant. The applicant's request for 619 South Church Street is to rezone from Activity Center to Neighborhood Conservation. 6.3 is their wish to construct a single-family home. Activity Center is mixed-use development outside the central business district, and the applicant just wants to move it to a residential use. So here is a survey sketch that we got from the applicant, and it does show an encroachment from the home directly adjacent at 621 South Church Street. The encroachment will not change the required setback that they'll have to do for new development, but they may just have to shift the home to meet fire code or prevent having to put up fire safety walls, things of that nature. So the lot does meet the minimum standards for the lot width and the area. And here are some pictures. It's just a vacant lot at this time. We did ask the applicant for an official survey. The survey sketch that we got does seem to give a pretty good indication of the encroachment onto the property. We did speak with the city attorney, who felt that we could go forward with the rezoning request. And it may impact the property owner's ability for funding, but it shouldn't stop us from making a decision going forward and recommending this to City Council, one way or the other. And again, the AC zoning district, mixed commercial uses, NC 6.3, the applicant is requesting single-family detached. It does open it up to some other uses, but based on the lot width and area pretty much a single-family home would be all that would be feasible for construction. So that does conclude staff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Does the commission have any questions of staff before I open the public hearing? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing portion of this. What we do is we allow anyone that would like to speak for or against this request to come forward. If you do, we'd like for you to go to the podium and give us your name. So I will open it up for those who are against this request. Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak on behalf of this request? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of this and call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve as requested. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Elaine, the next item on the agenda, I had a call from the applicant at the last minute, and he is asking for us to defer his request until next month. He is asking Bob Weaver, the engineer, to help him with this request, and Bob has not been able to get to it yet. So I guess the process would be that we'll get a motion to defer and then just go through the vote on that. Is that right, Mr. Moore?
That's correct.
All right, so your work is done.
All right.
All right, do any of the commissioners have any question on what is taking place on this next item? The applicant called me literally 45 minutes ago in distress because he's very anxious to move forward with this project, but the engineer has not been able to help him. So he feels like he will have some help by next month, and he's asked us to defer. So for us to do that, I will need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to defer. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. Thank you. All right, the next item is PC 2023-19. Mr. Johnson, you look familiar.
Hey, good to see everybody again.
This is a request to permit a limited fence material on Church Street. Your report, please.
Yes. So the applicant is requesting to use barbed wire fence at the new Pinnacle Storage Facility, currently undergoing plan review, to be built at 1859 South Church Street. They did go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and receive permission to, in lieu of a masonry fence surrounding the entire property and a buffer yard surrounding the entire property, reduced buffer yard, and a black vinyl chain link fence instead of just basically a concrete wall, due to the topography and some of the landscaping setbacks. They're right up against a rail yard. There were a number of reasons, but the Board of Zoning Appeals did grant them this variance to use the black vinyl chain link fence. So tonight they are asking for permission to attach barbed wire to the top of the approved fencing. So here is the parcel. It does front on Freedom Boulevard, South Church, and it is directly adjacent to railroad track. It is currently zoned commercial general, which does conditionally permit a self-storage facility, which is what they're currently undergoing plan review for. So here is the site plan that is proposed. The green is the landscape buffer yard that they are going to put in based on what BZA approved, and then the black arrows show the proposed location of the black vinyl fence. And all of the black vinyl fence will have the barbed wire. And there is a detail of the fence at the top of the barbed wire. I believe it extends another foot higher than the 6-foot fence. that they are proposing. And as you can see, it will be pretty heavily buffered from Freedom Boulevard, Church Street. You have the railroad, which will obviously provide buffer. And then Freedom Boulevard itself, a third of the way through the property, you kind of get the bridge that goes over the railroad. So even topography provides some buffering from adjacent uses. So here's just a close-up of the fence. So they did receive BZA approval in 2022 for black vinyl fence, and then it is the role of Planning Commission to approve barbed wire outside of the AR or IH districts. So that does conclude staff's report.
Mr. Johnson, they've obviously appealed several things. One from a masonry opaque fence to a black wire link fence, which does offer some visibility, and now they're going for the barbed wire. Why would barbed wire not be allowed in a general commercial?
It seems to be it would be used in heavy industrial uses or agricultural rural, and then anything outside of that, Planning Commission would need to approve it at a specific location.
So they've asked for the chain link fence, the barbed wire, and didn't they reduce the size of the buffer or do something with the buffer?
They did, based on their topography location. They felt that providing the buffer yard at these prescribed locations would be enough to buffer it from residential uses or commercial uses surrounding it from the streets, either Freedom Boulevard or South Church Street. And BZA concurred that they believe that a reduced buffer yard and not putting up a masonry fence around the entire property would be acceptable. And again, they also do have these stormwater ponds that they're placing on either end, so that just provides more of a buffer from adjacent uses.
The commission the commission needs the city planning and engineers to tell us if that buffer is enough to cover it. You said BZA approved the fence?
BZA approved the reduced buffer yard, and one of the conditions of a self-storage facility is having to put up a 6-foot masonry wall around the entire use. So you can imagine that's pretty costly.
Yeah, very.
And they weren't sure that to maximize what they wanted to put in place, they felt that, and we feel that this buffer yard buffers it from adjacent uses, as well as the topography and its location near the railroad.
Does the commission have any questions?
And where is the railroad again?
Oh, okay. It's at the top of the picture, sir.
Okay.
And then you have Freedom Boulevard at the bottom, and then you have South Church Street.
To the right.
Right, kind of wraps around, around Food Lion and Lowe's. Is that Lowe's? And just feeds back into Pamplico Highway.
Okay.
So we have a black fence. What color is the barbed wire?
The barbed wire, I would imagine, well, they are proposing
Great.
right galvanized.
Yeah, I'm sure it's galvanized. That's a good question.
So I'm sure that if Planning Commission, I'm sure could place conditions on approval. If
I'm
they-
not aware of any barbed wire you can buy that's other than galvanized.
that might be-
It says number 9 gal clips. I don't know if that's referring to galvanized, right in the middle there.
Right,
Yeah,
so I
it
think
does.
everything
Galvanized clips.
above the fence would be silver gray, your traditional chain link fence color.
The piers, I'm thinking that company. We try to do our piers coming into Florence, and that's one of the major hubs coming into Florence, or piers wise. They building a lot of storage houses around Florence. I've noticed that, but people, you say the purpose of the chain link fence because it would cost. That's
Well-
what you're saying?
Well, the reason they went to BZA and already got approval for the black vinyl chain link fence is because they felt with the underlying conditions of the location that black vinyl fence would achieve the same ends of the masonry wall based on the buffer yard they were putting in and the adjacent uses. So tonight we just have to decide if they can also add the barbed wire to the fence.
The BZA is the Board of Zoning Appeals. Apparently they were comfortable with that. But the barbed wire does send a different message. But any other questions of staff? Mr. Moses, you don't have a microphone over there. You want to switch seats?
Well,
Just use the slide that way.
I can talk loud of them. but I'm just looking, because I live in that area, and you putting up, to me, you putting the appearance of coming into Florence, you putting up chain link fence, you putting up all this here, and it looked like, I hate to say it, but it looked like chain game. You know, we trying to do the appearance of, they did the bubble. Why they didn't do all at one time? That's why my concern. You know, you go to your appeals for one thing, then you come into us for another thing. Then if something happens, you say, well, the planning commissioner, they approve it, and then the appearance. You know, sooner or later, there's the appearance coming to Florence. You know, I'm just looking at visual-wise coming to Florence, how people are going to look at all that. That's what I'm looking at.
Yes, sir.
Was the barbed wire mentioned during the zoning appeals? Or?
No, but only Planning Commission has the authority to approve.
I was wondering if it was mentioned, like, was it mentioned at all during the BZA
Is
meeting?
there a specific reason? Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, please.
Is there a specific reason for the barbed wire?
Security.
For
Security.
security. I mean, but that's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Is there an alternative to barbed wire that would be more appealing? I don't know of anything.
I'm not sure. I just know that the applicant desires to have the barbed wire for security.
But again, I think you answered this question. Where the barbed wire is going to be on that fence, that's facing the rail.
That's correct.
On the
yes,
back
sir.
part back there?
The black arrows show everywhere where the fence will be, and the green shows that from South Church Street and Freedom Boulevard, you have a pretty good buffer as well as distance, and then the buildings themselves. So on the back side, the railroad, which currently does have trees, at least on this side of the railroad, and then distance to residential uses.
And the barbed wire sticks out toward the street, so they would have to climb backwards to.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. They have barbed wire on, if I'm not mistaken, on some of the buildings there on South Church Street. Used to be the old milk, the uniform place. I think if you ride down there, you'll see.
Yeah, old city building.
Right.
Yeah, seal test. That's been. I
Seal
think
test.
that's been since I was 15 years old. Actually.
Yeah,
I think they would tell that down.
many years. But it's been up there for years.
Yeah.
It's not that unusual.
All right, any other questions? I'll call for the public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to speak against this request, we invite you to come forward. Is there anyone that would like to speak on behalf? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing portion of this and call for a motion. Having failed to achieve a motion, do we defer? Motion failed. And we go to the next item. Okay. All right. The next item is request request for sketch plan review for the Palm subdivision. This is PC 2023-23. Mr. Johnson?
All right. So this is the Palm subdivision. This is an infill development of what used to be the Oakdale Golf Course. So here's a aerial view. And y'all do have in front of you the most up-to-date, latest and greatest sketch plans. It's actually 3 pages. All right, it is zoned RG2. All right, and so here's the sketch plan. So we're looking at total 179 lots. They have to be a minimum of 6,500 square feet and have a minimum street frontage of 60 feet. This higher density is afforded to them because they are setting aside 30% open space using Lake Oakdale. So that does afford them a little bit higher density. And on the first page, you can see the lot layout, typical lot layout. So that will show you the setbacks that homes will have to follow. Phase 1A is the lots 1 through 11. Phase 1B, 12 through 39. So it does kind of hop around a little bit. Phase 3, 112 through 157, that's 46 lots. Phase 4 is 22 lots total. So the first page gives just an overall view of everything. And then page 2, you're looking specifically at phase 1A. And then the third page, specifically phase 1B. We did provide plan review comments to the applicant, and we asked them to provide street names so we could put it through E911 system, so to make sure we have unique names for when they respond to emergencies. So the applicant was quick to get back with us on that, that being the main issue. This will have city water. This will have city sewer provided by a pump station. It will also be under our stormwater jurisdiction. So once they get sketch plan approval, they'll have to go through development plan. And at this time, this sketch plan is in compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
And what was the total number of houses with all phases?
179 total lots. And this is just infill development in the old Oakdale Golf Club. Golf course, not club.
Okay.
This increased density, you talked about getting credit for Lake Oakdale. How does this density differ from what you guys normally look at?
This is being designed as what we call a cluster single family. Conventional single family without the open space, you are required to have larger lots, larger lot width, and larger setbacks. So if you do dedicate that open space, you do get you can have smaller lot width, get more density. We encourage setting aside open space in exchange for density to the developers.
All right. No public hearing with this, so I'll call for a motion.
One other question.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
I'm going to ask a question.
We have 2 questions. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Bunton.
I was asking, you said there was storm drains. I always call them cesspool. Where did you put that at?
The storm drains?
Yes.
Oh, okay, they'll run throughout the neighborhood. Eventually, it will all drain to Lake Oakdale.
Lake Oakdale, that's where that dam that don't belong to, that they'll take care of.
Oh, okay. And there are also the storm ponds shown. Let's see, it's around. If you look at the first page, which gives the entire overview, they'll have to provide water quality and water quantity. So they do have to be able to handle storm systems treat that stormwater and then, release it out into the waterways. So yes, sir, it does have a few ponds.
Near this,
Along the lakefront area.
I don't remember. That's why I'm asking staff. I don't remember exactly.
There
what it
was during the storms up on the upper end. There was an issue with some of the road getting washed away.
I see.
But that was further up on the more towards the South Road side. Of things.
That was during Hurricane Matthew.
Yeah. That's still DOT still has some repairs to do.
Right. Another thing is, I know there's a name change on this versus our original packet. D.R. Horton is on the original, but the Clausen LLC is on this one. Who's the applicant?
It's supposed to be Clausen. That was probably a staff error.
Thanks, sir.
Good catch.
Yeah.
All right, I will call for a motion.
Did they solve that problem about the
Mr.
dam?
Moses.
I remember a dam was in there. There was a dam there one time.
Yeah, that was often misunderstood. So the dam is privately owned for this lake. It will be located in the city. It will be within the municipal limits, but the maintenance and upkeep of the dam is private.
I would like to remind the commissioners that in sketch plan, approval, and I'm looking at everybody, I'm not looking at you, Mr. Moses. We don't have the capability of determining if there's enough stormwater retention there, or, we're counting on the city engineers. And although I like these kind of questions, but, when we have a lengthy meeting like we have tonight, I would like to hold back on some of those questions.
But we that's what we hear to find out what's going on with the developer. Don't wait till the last minute. So we did talk about that. Those issues that everybody should know.
Well, I agree, but the city engineers are the ones that have the capability of determining.
Well, I understand that 100%, but I like to ask questions.
I like that too.
Well, the other thing too, I'll just add, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, when you're getting these credits and you're packing these lots in like this, it's a sketch plan that we have to approve. And I think personally that if we're approving a sketch plan with this many houses, I need a little bit of background information just to make sure my head's clear around. I'm a developer too, so. I just want to make sure it's in compliance with open space and all that stuff, because these are smaller lots. But that's the only reason I asked. I just wanted to make sure before we vote on the sketch plan that I know staff knows a lot more than we do, but I just wanted some more information about why these are smaller lots and credits and all that stuff on the record. That's all.
I understand that, and at the same time, and I'm sorry to bore our attendees tonight, I know I don't have the capability. You're a developer, and you have the ability to look at the lot size, and that's very credible. If I brought up that question, I probably would not do a very good job of asking the question, much less getting the right answer if I got one or not.
But I understand. I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Okay.
In other words, Chairman, I'm a certified engineer also with CSX. I built tracks for 44 years. And that exactly.
I did not know that, Mr. Moses.
I just want you to know
I
that.
put another check by your name.
No, don't put the check. Just remember that.
All right. So where were we?
Call for the motion.
Thank you. I'll call for the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I second it.
I have a motion and a second from my two renegades.
All right.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. Thank you, gentlemen, and I take that with all due respect. Well, Miss Lang, we might give you some work tonight. Okay, this is PC 2023-24. This is a request to rezone from CA to NC 15.
Yes,
Staff
sir.
report, please.
Hopefully this one will be a little bit simpler, and this is kind of a two-part. These two cases are related very closely. This is the John Calvin I think it's Presbyterian Church at the corner of Marsh and 3rd Loop Road. And as you can see, they have a significant size lot. And basically all they want to do is subdivide. Well, first of all, it's zoned campus. And they want to divide off 5 lots along Calvin Circle on the the east side of the parcel, and zone those 5 lots to NC 15, which is a single-family large lot zoning designation. So as you can see here, that's what it'll look like. It's just the eastern 150 feet of the parcel would be rezoned from the campus to NC 15. And the purpose is to build 5 single-family houses, to sell the lots to have single-family homes built along them, which would be in keeping with everything around it. It is zoned, or the future land use maps dictates it as public and institutional, but that is because of the church being there for, as Mr. Sheeran told me, for the last 60 years. But everything around it is neighborhood conservation. So this is the proposed use is in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. And these are the parcels that they're requesting to subdivide off and zone to the NC 15. And that'll come up in the next case, but as I said, these two are related. But this first one will be just the rezoning of that eastern 150 feet of the parcel. And these are some site photos of the lot. Right now it's just a green space, and directly across the street from this parcel are single-family houses on large lots. So that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll open the public hearing portion of this. If anybody would like to speak on behalf, or excuse me, let me get the against first. That way the behalfs, okay? Please come forward and give us your name, please.
Good evening. I'm Josie Stratton. I live in one of those single-family homes next to that lot. We've lived there for 20 years, which is about the average that live in that neighborhood. They have been there about 18 years. It is a microcosm of Florence, those homes that you just showed. It is diverse in race and socioeconomic and beliefs, and we somehow get along. But with that, our concern is that that while these lots have been marked off and they do meet the minimum, that these lots are going to be substantially smaller than the lots that we live on. For instance, if you could just ride down the street and see the difference where they have 5 lots to our current 4 lots, which in turn puts a smaller home on that lot. And even if it's a newer home that has the potential of decreasing that property value, there's also the concern that we have had these streets sit low in that neighborhood. And there is concern of the infrastructure that I know y'all were just talking about. And while that may not be a concern of this committee, that y'all can do anything about it, but it is a concern for us that more houses come in and that the drainage that is there can't handle it. So I think that with the smaller lots, we're also concerned as to, even though it's homes, when you look at the development on 3rd Loop, that most of the development has been for rental homes. And as I said, we're not a transient community where we are there and putting our roots there. Rental homes would certainly decrease the value of the homes in that neighborhood. So while we are excited about growth and growth in Florence, I hope that those of us who've been there and invested, that won't be put aside in protecting our property over that. And I really just like the opportunity to work with John Calvin on some type of resolution with this. So I appreciate it.
Ms. Ratton, thank you. I have
Thank you.
a question for you,
Yes.
or a point, I guess. We do take drainage seriously. The sketch plan was a little different, but we've had several requests and applications where we've actually turned down developments based on drainage and concerns about flooding and stuff like that. So what you witnessed a little earlier is a little different than most. But I really appreciate you coming forward. Do any of the commissioners have a question for Ms. Stratton? Thank you. Oh, I'm
Are
sorry.
you having problems with drainage over there?
We have had problems, but the city has done an excellent job in cleaning the area that was causing some backup. However, it's just the way that land sits and the dirt that is, and there's nowhere else for it to drain the way that it sits. And especially that lot, if you ever walk across the lot that they're going to rezone, I mean, I know the contractor would take care of that. But when you talk about that size lot, putting a 1,500 square foot house on it, and then where are the cars going to be able to park in that? I mean, that's considerably smaller than ours. So yes, but yes, we were having problems with drainage. The water just sits in that neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Stratton.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak against? I will open it up to anyone that would like to speak on behalf or in favor of. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Tom Sharon with John Calvin Presbyterian Church.
Ms. Sharon, thank you for coming forward.
Thank y'all for letting us have a chance to appear before y'all. I'm an elder of the church and also treasurer. Many of our members in John Calvin Presbyterian Church reside in the Sandhurst neighborhood, and we are very aware of preserving that neighborhood. We are like, this decision was made as a result of, like a lot of churches, with decline in our attendance as well as our tithing. And so we had a great debate and a long period of discernment. We decided that what we would do in order to give back to the neighborhood would be to offer these 5 lots, taking the money to create an endowment fund for a lot of our members that when they passed, we did not have it in place, and that's what they will do. Plus, it will help us save some of our yard maintenance costs. I spoke with the Strattons before this meeting tonight about some of their concerns to see if we could talk with them. We do not take it lightly. We actually had only one member vote against this because she was in favor of green space, but she was a long-term member of that. So we wanted the size lots that we did because that's correct. I think 3 of them are 15,000 square feet. The 2 on the end, each of those like 16 plus. So they are right about, not as large as the average lot that's in that neighborhood, but we feel that the location would help do new growth as well as help recognize what John Calvin feels as far as that community. That's where we started. Dick Andrews was our first pastor. It was a mission church, and he lived there, and like I said, we were very dedicated to that community. So we did that, like I said, a conversation with Stratton, and we'd be glad to talk with him about it. We have, our attorney has suggested, as far as concern for rental houses, that maybe we can negotiate with the purchaser to release the first purchaser to restrict it that it can't be rental to a certain period. I know Dr. Lawhorn is experienced in developing it, I'm sure not. But we're going to try to do that route to preserve the neighborhood, because we have watched the neighborhood age, and they do have a lot of tenants, rental people there now, which we're hoping to bring back into the church, because hopefully they're looking for a new church home. But we felt we would just live to make this decision in order to help us keep going for the next another 60 years. And that's what we want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Sharon. Anybody have questions for the gentleman? Thank you, sir, for coming forward. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on behalf? I do have a question for staff. Is there a lot minimum size with this zoning?
In this zoning designation of NC 15, yes, the lot minimum is 15,000 square feet and 100 feet wide. And that is, all of these lots do meet those minimum requirements. And I've pulled up the map showing, as you can see, there's a variety of lot sizes in the area as well.
Okay. Can the commissioner see that? Mm-hmm. All right. I'll close the public hearing portion of this, and Call for a motion. Or maybe we need more discussion.
This is a little bit of discussion. I know that on Nottingham, these lots are about the same size. I mean, I personally own rental property on Nottingham for a while. Let me ask you this, sir. Please have a question.
Well, I'd like for him to come back.
Yeah, if you could, wouldn't mind. Sorry. Are you going to put a minimum square footage of a house that can be built on this property?
We will. We've been trying to locate the original Sandhurst covenants, and maybe these folks may have it. It's not available online, but we know it's in the original Florence County books, and we will hold them to what restrictions there are in that neighborhood. So we're hoping that if this gets approved, to go ahead and try to reach one of the local title searchers as far as maybe have access to the original documents so we can see what those restrictions are. We do intend, if we get our hands on them, to impose those restrictions on the purchase of these lots. Yes, sir.
Is that within our purview? We just got to approve the sketch plan. We can't put any limits
This
on it.
is a zoning request.
It's all, okay, sorry.
Sketch plan is after this.
Yeah, so, okay, got you. All right, all right.
All right, any other questions?
I do have a question.
Please do.
Is it possible to defer until they're able to review the restrictive covenants?
It absolutely is possible. You know, some of the determination would be, is there a timeline here? We would love for the two of y'all to talk, the church and the Strantons, and that would.
I'm sorry, Chair. Does this property have restrictions on it? Is it bound by covenants, restrictions?
They're looking for those.
So the original Sandhurst developmental neighborhood had restrictions.
Okay. But the restrictions are in place, correct, on this property?
Not on ours, but in the neighborhood's my understanding.
Right. So this is unrestricted property.
Unrestricted.
All right, I'm a big property rights guy. I want to make sure I understand this.
And
This property is current.
I'm a layperson. It's my
Okay.
understanding, until we find the actual covenants for Sandhurst, is that this was purchased outside of the Sandhurst neighborhood. What we can find online as far as some of the GIS maps and the old records.
But this was purchased as a site for the church, as a church, right? So there's.
And we don't
That's
know if
the-
it was subject to the covenants or not.
Right.
It's a little bit over 6 acres, I believe.
Okay.
How old is the church in comparison to the neighborhood?
Like I said, our church congregation itself will be 60 years old next in 2024. I cannot off the top of my head recall when the first part of the building was built there.
What about the rest of the neighborhood, the Sandhurst neighborhood? Is it older than the church or younger?
From the covenants, I do not know. I think some of I'll put it this way, I think that's older than the church because some of the members, I believe, lived there when the church was formed. A lot of our members went for First Pres and then came in and joined John Calvin when it was started. And so they lived there.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Sams suggested, asked a question about deferral. Is there any additional questions of the applicant?
If both you see you talk to Jay, and then if you have to come to an agreement within the property line and what you want to do there, and is agreeable with the two of y'all, then I would love to defer.
All right. I need that in the form of a motion. Thank you, sir. The public hearing is closed. I will call for a motion.
Make a motion that we defer.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to defer. Is there any discussion? I would like to make one comment. I think the only resolution is they're going to only be able to sell 4 lots instead of 5. To make those lots larger, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that. I think that's probably going to be the only solution. Commissioner?
We don't know what they want to come up with because they can't. We
Right.
don't know what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might come up with 5. We don't know. As long as they sit down and talk.
I agree with that.
Well, also, too, you're not going to overbuild the neighborhood. You're not going to. Most of those houses in there, some of them are 1,500, 1,200, that type of thing. I mean, be crazy to put a 3,000 square foot house with comps around you that's not even close to that. Whatever. So I guess the smart thing to do is let them talk.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Sims. That was your first participation. I like that. Okay. Ms. Lane, PC 2023-25. Staff report, please.
This is the same parcel, and this is the request for sketch plan review for the 5 lots. And I just would reiterate that the proposed areas and widths of the lots do meet the requirements for the NC 15 zoning designation, but since you've deferred the zoning, then as it would be considered still zoned campus, and so
We have to defer
we
this.
would have to defer this one as well.
All right. Do we have a...
Make a
Okay,
motion.
I knew that. I was just looking to make sure we didn't have a...
Public hearing.
Okay, I'll call for a motion.
Defer.
Second?
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second to defer to next month. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those against say nay. The ayes have it. All right. PC 2023-26. This is a request for sketch plan review of Creekside Landing. Ms. Elaine.
Yes, sir. This parcel, these are some parcels that were annexed back in, I believe, May or June as a subdivision, single-family subdivision, and now they're coming before you with sketch plan. And they have laid out, it is zoned RG3, which allows the smaller lots and the clustering. And they have provided us with a sketch plan with 133 lots. It does accommodate the wetlands to the north and to the south, and is using existing roads, Crawford Avenue and Brahennon Drive, and the staff and the engineering staff and zoning have looked at the sketch plan. After a little bit of tweaking, it is in compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance.
You said it is in compliance.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that
And
staff report?
that concludes staff.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, staff? I will call for a motion.
A motion approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Ms. Sims. You wanted to so bad. Have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. PC 2023-26. This is a request for a sketch plan review of Creekside Landing. Mr. Johnston.
All right, sir. Are we on West Kansas Road? Are we on 27?
27.
I'm sorry, you're right.
27.
This is 27. Okay, this is PC 2023-27, request to rename. And staff report, please.
Yes. Okay, so the property owner of Freedom Square is requesting to rename. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. West Kansas Drive and an unnamed road. And let me just skip to the graphic. So there was some confusion in the staff report. Staff was trying to get to Mount Pleasant for vacation for a little while, and you may have made some mistakes. But
Tell it all, brother.
Allegiance Avenue is the proposed road name for the road to the north. And after some review, Republic Way was not an acceptable name, so Ticonderoga Way is the proposed name for West Kansas Drive. So this, from what city staff can see, there would only be one parcel that would be affected by this name change. At 104 through 116, West Kansas Drive would then turn into 104 through 116 Ticonderoga Way. Sure, I have those right. So Allegiance Avenue and Ticonderoga Way. So that is the proposal. These are both private streets, part of Freedom Plaza, owned by the property. These are not city-maintained streets, and they will remain private. So that does conclude staff's report.
Mr. Johnson, I believe the name of the shopping center, Freedom Square, has had a theme for a good while, and from what I can tell, the owners have kept with that theme, with Allegiance, and Ticonderoga also has historical value as well. And so, from the standpoint of keeping with that theme, I kind of like that. Is that the kind of direction?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
The
All right.
applicant educated us a little bit on American history and Fort Ticonderoga. So yes, sir, it is in that theme.
Have you had any opposing calls or anything with that?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Any questions of staff?
I do have a question.
Okay.
As far as the business that's located there, how would it affect like their licenses and stuff? Like, would they have to change anything immediately? To be
Their addresses
compliant?
are Irby Street, if I recall correctly.
For within the Freedom Plaza development, it will not affect it. I believe the only property that has been, the business is located at the 104 through 116 West Kansas Drive. They'll be provided a notification of the road name change, and they'll need to amend whatever documents that they'll need to change. So it should be pretty minimal there. That property is located within the county, so they're not going to have to amend any business license or anything of that nature.
All right. Does that answer your question?
Yep, it is.
Good. Any other questions? All right. I'll open the public hearing portion of this. If there's anyone here that is against this request, I'd ask you to come forward. Seeing none, anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? I think we have a participant. Good evening, sir. Mr. Councilman.
How are y'all this evening?
Good, thank you.
I appreciate y'all taking this matter up today for me.
Absolutely. This is William Schofield.
My name is William
County
Schofield. I'm a property owner with Carolina Enterprises. I'm currently redeveloping that entire shopping center and trying to bring a bunch of new businesses to Florence, as well as just trying to clean that side of town up some. So far, we've been put close to $2 million into that property to try and clean it up as far as landscaping and development, with more planned. But Freedom Square has been known as Freedom Square since my father, grandfather, and great uncle built it when they moved Winn-Dixie from South Park over to the new location. When I gained possession of Freedom Square, I didn't want to change the name. As being a Navy veteran, freedom is important to me. So one of the first things that I did do during this whole redevelopment was put up a 75-foot flagpole. I'm sure some of you have seen it. And I thought Allegiance Avenue was very fitting to come off the second loop to come down it. I'm sure before you started this meeting, I'm sorry for being tardy. I had to close my other business. That you all said the Pledge of Allegiance before we even started. So I thought that was very fitting coming to the flagpole. That street will have to be named once I developed that road. It will not, the businesses located in my grass lot right there that will be developed will not be able to use an Irby Street address. So I need to go ahead and name it, and I'm requesting for Allegiance Avenue. As far as Kansas Drive, I think that was named as in a joke more than because we're not in Kansas anymore when that was really put there. But Ticonderoga Way, we tossed around a bunch of names trying to figure out something that would stick. There's a lot. You realize it's really hard to find a road that's not already taken. I served on a guided missile cruiser, which was a Ticonderoga class guided missile cruiser. And so that has precedence to me, but it's also the first battle that the Americans won against the British in 1775. And so it's got historical significance as well. That's all I've got, unless you've got questions for me.
Any questions? Thank you, Councilman.
Sure.
All right. Is anyone else would like to speak in favor of? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of this and call for a motion.
Motion approved.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay. The ayes have it. All right.
One more comment for the record. Your daddy'd be proud of you. Sorry.
That was worth. Yeah. Okay, PC 2023-28. Mr. Johnson.
All right, I believe this is our last case for tonight.
Yes.
So this
Oh,
is
be
12
still
Oaks
my beating
Townhomes. This is off of Celebration Boulevard. This has been before Planning Commission before for a townhome development in the commercial general. It actually received development plan approval as 13 units. The applicant's coming back and requesting 20 units. I think that rising costs in construction and getting everything laid out has led to a little bit more density and a little bit larger request for more townhome units. So they do gain access through an easement through the property of Mi Tierra Mexican restaurant. So that is how they are able to get public access, and they're not landlocked. So this was the original sketch plan. It was for 12 lots approved in August of 2020. Then we came back in 2022 and did 13 lots, just added one more. And it does, those and the current layout do meet the minimum standards for townhomes as far as setbacks, minimum sizing, width. The one condition that the applicant is requesting a variance from is a minimum distance of 20 feet between unattached townhome units. The first iteration was in compliance with this. The second iteration that they got approved, and we actually approved their development plan, it's something that staff missed. They have, it was about 11 feet between unattached buildings. So they are again requesting that distance between unattached townhome units. And having development plan approval, they've already started to put utilities into the ground with that distance. So that is the one variance request that they're asking for tonight. And here is the layout. You'll actually have the newest printed version in front of you for 20 lots. And they are constructing a new private road, 12 Oaks Lane. And again, they do meet all the minimums except for that one variance. We have talked to the fire marshal. It will not have to undergo any additional fire rating if they do stay the 11 feet apart. So that the fire code will not be an issue. And other than that, it does meet the Unified Development Ordinance. And the developer has shared with us some elevations of what they hope for it to look like in the future. And here's just some pictures showing 12 Oaks Lane, the approximate location, and then the parcel that right now it's vacant and undergoing earth movement and utility construction. And that does conclude staff's report.
Mr. Johnson, you kind of made me look bad. You know, I put all the authority and know-how in the city, and you let this one get by.
Yes, sir. I apologize. We'll do better going forward.
You're right, Mr. Moses. I guess my question is, the developer is further along to where we can't correct this. So we kind of don't have a choice.
That's right.
There would be an expense associated with moving utilities at this time.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
I have a question. How does a fire truck turn around? Does this meet the length? I don't see any. Those big turnarounds you guys make me put in all the time.
Right,
I don't see one
exactly.
here.
Yeah, so they would turn around at the dumpster enclosure. So 12 Oaks, you have the 150 feet, and then they would have to back up and turn around at the dumpster enclosure.
So no, you don't need a radius. There's no radius anymore requirement of
I
that.
think it has a radius on there. Let's see. This says 28.
Yeah, we permit a T turnaround on
Right.
instances like this, and have with the new Unified Development Ordinance, we allow that. We don't limit it to just the cul-de-sacs.
All right. Any other questions? I'll call for a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay. The ayes have it. Commissioners, thank y'all and welcome, Ms. Sams. Yeah, we normally don't have this heavy a schedule. So if you want to send any nasty notes, send it to this. Call for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion second. All those approve say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.